All right. All right, guys, welcome back to Hard Times. It's the same Hard Times same Hard Times channel. We're into chapter 26 of the book, Hard Times for Each Strong Man, written by Stefan Arnio. And we did one chapter. Chapter 25 was about science, and chapter 26, New God, is about atheism and killing the sacred cow. And one of the things I like about this chapter is it talks a lot about Stoicism, as well as the different religions that stacked. And one thing that's interesting here in the chapter for me was that Christianity is not that old. You know, it's like
2,000 years.
Yeah, 2,500, 2,000 years old. When we have things like Hinduism, Judaism, I don't even know how to say that, Zoroastrianism, Jainism, Buddhism, Confucianism, I don't know. But it goes to show that religions do come and go. It's interesting. Because you know a lot about the Old Testament in the sense that you know more than myself. Does it go back? Like it says Judaism here.
Goes back almost 6,000 years.
Yeah, it's got like almost 4,000 listed here.
No, that's incorrect. No, that's going to be an error because our calendar goes back almost 6,000 years because the Christians only count back, 2,023 years currently, and we're almost like counting to the year 6,000. Yeah, I don't know where Stefan got that chart from in the book, but I'm pretty sure Judaism.
Belief.com.
Yeah, I don't know how accurate that is because that actually contradicts the Jewish calendar.
So it says here, America founded on a mix of Judaism, Judeo-Christian values, religion, a philosophy, a system of organized living, a fundamental technology of civilization, and an ancient way to pass knowledge from one generation to another, and a way to build on strong values that allow empires to be built. Without such technology of religion, man would be living, digging in the mud, scavenging to live, roaming the countryside as bands of cannibals. Religion is the technology and the system that keeps man from the darkest self and from the darkness of his own human nature. And I think that's really true, you know, that we had the Middle Ages, you know, after the fall of Rome, and it goes into here. Where is it? I think it's right here. Page 361. Rome died when it began to take on Epicurean philosophies and the relative weakness of Christian values versus Stoic values. Because it goes over Stoicism here, which was the fundamental religion in like Roman and Greek worlds until the 3rd century AD. So Stoicism is predominantly a philosophy of personal ethics that is informed by a system of logic and its views on the natural world. According to its teachings, as social beings, the path to happiness for humans is found in accepting this moment as it presents itself, but not allowing ourselves to be controlled by our desires for pleasure or our fear of pain. By using our minds to understand the world around us and to do our part in nature's plan, and by working together and treating others in a fair and just manner. That kind of
sounds like Judaism. Because, you know, what is like managing conflict? Mm-hmm. But even before we get there, like as you were saying, your point about the religion like gives a software that prevents mankind from devolving. Like this goes back to the story as the 10 Commandments, where Moses goes up to the mountains to bring back the stone tablets. And what are the 10 Commandments? Well, what is it? It's like, don't steal from your neighbor, respect your parents, don't kill, you know, don't cheat, don't lie, among other things. Now, why is the 10 Commandments such an important story in the Bible? Well, the 10 Commandments.
Yeah, right here.
Oh, yeah, he pulled up the 10 Commandments. Yeah.
I'm the Lord, thou shalt not have any strange gods before me.
Yeah, like no idol worship.
Thou shalt not take the name of the Lord in vain. Remember to keep holy the Sabbath day. Honor thy father and mother. Thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not commit adultery, thou shalt not steal, thou shalt not bear false witness against thy neighbor. So like lying.
Yeah.
Thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's wife. So like keep
And
your
yeah.
eyes up.
And thou shalt not covet my neighbor's goods. Now, why is this so important? Is because if you take these rules and apply them to like any society, you can actually have a functioning, stable society.
Yeah,
Now,
don't lie, don't kill, don't cheat, don't steal.
but let's talk about the first rule. What it says there: I am the Lord thy God. Thou shalt not have any strange gods before me. Now, why is idolatry such a big deal? Like, why is Judaism or Judeo-Christian values so like vehemently against idolatry?
Well, I think it's coming out of a time when there were like handfuls of gods.
No, it's actually like worse than that. It's coming at a time where there was handfuls of gods and you had all these people worshiping all these rocks and sticks and like signs in the sky and clouds and like sacrificing things to them, including human beings. Right. And so Judaism, comes from like a very dark time, 6,000 years ago, where predominantly most of the human civilizations in the world at the time were engaging in human sacrifice and other very questionable things in the name of like stone statues and idols and all that.
Let's do a rain dance.
Yeah, or for example, in what's called Babylon, with like they'd sacrifice babies to the worship of Baal, where they'd literally like throw babies in ovens, right? As a token tribute offering. So that's why the first commandment there in the 10 Commandments is actually such a big deal, because this was actually the first time when this came out. This was like the first time where it was like vehemently against idol worship, and that also like directs to like human sacrifice, right?
Yeah,
like
so that takes that off the table, and it's just like don't kill, don't cheat, don't steal. Yeah. It says the 10 Commandments in the Bible outline man's violent and feral tendencies to kill, steal, rape, fornicate, and worship false gods like we do today, money and government. This old technology has helped man advance through the ages to the next level of civilization. The fact that man has needed 10 commandments to avoid the darkness of human nature is indeed revealing about the 10 dark things that man will do first if he becomes feral, unthinking, emotional animal acting upon his urges and whims. Man becomes a violent barbarian, killing, raping, stealing, pillaging, and violently taking that which his unpredictable emotions dictate. So it says at some point in history, man was ill-behaved, and the original laws of man had to be written in the form of the 10 Commandments to rule man and civilize the beast into a coherent group. Those commandments grew from a hard time and created strong men to enforce the commandments, from keeping men from degrading into criminals, adulterers, and worst of all, cannibals. Yeah, there's probably a lot more cannibalism in history than we talk about. They probably just don't write about it.
But like, isn't cannibalism, I would say that's like a byproduct of a dysfunctional society, because when you're a dysfunctional society that has no stability, you don't have agriculture.
So you have to eat each other.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you have to go and like be a hunter and gatherer all day, and you can't have a stable society. So if you're a truly degenerate society and you can't cooperate and get along, and you can't have agriculture, you're going to have to do banditry and other bullshit to survive.
So it says here on page 374. So what is man's relationship with God? Man's relationship with God has become challenging, especially with the proliferation of atheism as the reigning religion in our schools and universities. The educated people in the universities have become the new God of man, and their theories, papers, publications, and science on what they believe to know based on data, studies, and facts from yesterday. I would say that the modern man, the weak man, would deny that God or a creator, an infinite intelligence, a universe governed by design and spiritual laws, or a central binding force in the universe even exists. To deny that there's a creator to this world is like denying that you have a mother and a father of your own. You were created by your own mom and dad. Something created you. There is a design to you as a human being. If man's relationship with God is mostly denial now, then how can we reverse this trend? Well, you're seeing churches dying all over the place. They're converting them to houses. They're converting them to like
housing.
multi-unit buildings because the churches can't survive.
Well, I have a question to like the atheists out there. If there is no God or intelligent designer, how can you explain how like this world is like perfect? And I'm not talking about society getting along and us all like having like amazing lives and living, you know, our best selves. I'm talking about like the basic physics and biological systems, the ecological systems of this planet. Like, how can you explain that the ratio of where the moon is and how the tides work and the seasons work and how bees, for example, pollinate like all the plants and everything works in harmony and sync with each other? Like if, you know, life, if the universe is just some chaotic mess, it just happened from a big bang and we're just here for kicks. How can you explain that everything works in harmony, everything works so perfect with each other, and we're the ones fucking it up? Which if you actually read the Bible and like the Garden of Eden, that's exactly what we do.
Yeah, it's in our nature. Well, it's the other thing too, is I was reading the other day, it says birds chirping resonates a frequency that opens the leaves of plants to accept light, to do the exchange of light into its energy.
Right.
So if the birds don't wake up and whistle at that frequency, chirp at that frequency, then the plants don't wake up. So like how can you sit around and going, oh, there's nothing, it's all just a big coincidence. It's just a big coincidence.
It's just
right?
a big bang and everything just worked out.
Well, it says, the way to connect to infinite intelligence and the divine is to clear your mind of all the noise that is civilization, and just listen to the nothingness. Some people call this meditation. Some call it prayer. Some people meditate to be with God, while others pray, which is scientifically proven to trigger the brain mechanics. Prayer and meditation stimulate the brain in the same way. So here it is, a little quote from Napoleon Hill. Faith is the head chemist of the mind. When faith is blended with the vibration of thought, the subconscious mind instantly picks up the vibration, translates it into spiritual equivalent, and transmits it to the infinite intelligence, as in the case of prayer. So there's like, I suppose then atheists are spending a lot of time meditating.
I doubt it.
Well, if they're like a new age person, meditation is like the new prayer.
Well, here's the thing is that all these like new age, they call themselves spiritual, but they don't believe in the spirit.
Yeah, they're like,
Right.
I believe in the universe.
Yeah, I just want to do like some hippie shit and pop drugs, but I don't actually want to go all the way with, you know, what it means to have a soul and all that stuff. We're just doing it for kicks. Right. And anything that we do halfway, we already know, oh, I'm just doing this for kicks. You know, they're not for real.
Here's an interesting quote. This goes back to page 372 about, you know, the innate nature of man. It says, man has no automatic code of survival. His particular distinction from all other living species is the necessity to act in the face of alternatives by means of volitional choice.
Volitional choice. Yeah.
Man must obtain his knowledge and choose his actions by a process of thinking, which nature will not force him to perform. Man has the power to act as his own destroyer, and that is the way he has acted through most of history.
Well, that's actually an interesting quote, because, you know, you being logical isn't something that naturally occurs in the animal kingdom. Right.
Yeah, it's like instinct based.
Right. Like when has the last time you saw like a cat, like just hanging out and thinking about like doing something like, oh, maybe I'm going to go chase this mouse later, or, you know, deliberating about something. And so that's actually in the Jewish religion that says that our purpose on this world is to use the divine powers of logic that God gave us to navigate through the reality, which is a conflict Otherwise, the conflict is going to navigate and manage us.
Right here says, this is 371 again. Man is weak, ruled by his emotions. If he does not use his mind and use reason to survive, we are cannibals on an animalistic and physical level. The only thing keeping us from cannibalism today is the thin veil of civilization we have dangling in front of our faces, and our value systems that are still loosely based on successful religions of the past. Religion is the technology that keeps man from degrading into an animal, a cannibal, by harnessing the power of his mind and spirit for greater things in life. What I like about that is it says, our civilization is loosely based on successful religions of the past. So you look at like pretty much every civilization has a religion. Like there's no country or culture that doesn't have a foundational religion.
Yeah, but I think Stefan is specifically talking about how the West predominantly has been built on Judaic Christian values, where all these inventors and scientists, primarily in the Renaissance, came up with all these inventions and ideas that propelled humanity into the industrial age. Because prior to that, it was called the Dark Ages, where humanity actually regressed. We regressed as a society, and it wasn't until the average person could learn how to read and write, and the Vatican was like backing off and allowing people to express themselves and explore new ideas, that society kind of had its arms tied behind its back.
Like the printing press prints the Bible. The Bible's like a how to not, go against the 10 Commandments. They could have just printed that pamphlet and gone around preaching that. So one thing that's interesting about this chapter is you'll read through the chapter and you'll get about halfway. And then what Stefan dives into is the 10 mind stimuli. The human mind responds to stimuli through a way to be keyed up to high rates of vibration known as exhaustion, creative imagination, intense desire, etc. The stimuli to which the mind responds most freely are the desire for sex expression, love, a burning desire for fame, power, or financial gain, money, music, friendship between either the same sex or those of the opposite sex, a mastermind alliance based on a harmony of two or more people who ally themselves for spiritual or temporal advancement. So I guess here where we're doing this call, we're stimulating our minds, certainly. Auto-suggestion, so like telling yourself like, I'm going to be rich, and maybe that helps you meditate. Fear, obviously that's a stimuli that keeps you going. And then narcotics and alcohol, number 10. Narcotics and alcohol. So it's almost in this chapter, when I was reading it, it was saying, because we read last week, chapter 25, about the new God and science. And that's like how society is framing out the God, right? And they're pushing it out of the schools. I mean, the last time I did religion class was grade 6 in a small town outside of Winnipeg. Because in Winnipeg, we weren't doing religion class, but they had a period every day where they studied the Bible. And then I guess that was like a fundamental, like, why not teach that? If we're going to teach history, why not teach the Bible, right? But then people are like, well, that's not my God, that's not my Bible. So I suppose religion class could be developed into something that's more encompassing of like the study of Christianity, and Judeo-Christian, I guess, is what is the foundation. And then you could have Hinduism and Buddhism, and what's the other one? I'm missing the big one.
Islam.
So, if you want to pick one or the other, like Stefan says, it says pick one, just probably not atheism.
What was it? Andrew Tate converted to Islam.
Yeah.
And he says that the reason he chose Islam is because Islam is the one true religion, in the sense that if you go to most Islamic countries, they actually, go by what they preach and what they do. Whereas in the West, people, you can go to a church and they say, oh yeah, we're Christian here and we follow all these rules, but oh, we're actually having a Pride Month at church.
Yeah.
So it's
Well,
like
the church at the end of the street on Arlington had like every acronym. Some of them I didn't even, it looked like a big typo, like someone just rolled their hand across the keyboard, because there was like a plus in there and there was like AI, LGBTQ, ST. There was pretty much, they're like running out of letters. So how can you as a church and a foundational book, like you're saying, go against what is in the book? Like, are you making your own religion then?
it's
Or you're just
not a
bending
not a
it?
true religion anymore.
You're just bending it to get more people to show up to the service, I guess. I don't know. I like this part here. It says, Hard Times was written in 11 days by connecting with infinite intelligence and communicating through dreamlight state. Stefan wrote this when he was fasting, so he's probably just tripping out. But who knows? Maybe he found God in the jungle. Maybe he found voices in the jungle. If you're fasting for 40 days, anything could be a god after 40 days.
Yeah, and I really don't recommend doing like what he did, because who knows if that was even God he was talking to? It could have also been a demon, right? And that's the thing about these entities. When you go out and you try looking for them and you go fasting and you're all loopy and shit, that obviously what are the bullshit tricksters going to do? They're going to tell you what you want to hear.
Yeah. It says your weakness, your sin, and your addictions will take you away from your purpose on this earth and the work that you're here to do. To find your divine purpose and what you were put here on the earth to do, you must connect to God, to the infinite intelligence, to the force that binds all things and listens for answers. The infinite intelligence has everything you need, but you can never connect to it if you deny its existence.
Haha, checkmate, atheists.
Yeah. And you can never connect to it if your life is full of addictions, fears, and distractions. Cut the fat and cut the extra distractions. Less is more. Men throughout history have had their biggest breakthroughs by stripping away all and going into nature, perhaps into a cabin or perhaps into a jail cell. Andrew Tate.
Yeah.
To be alone and one with God. There they find purpose, their character, and their work, much like the Jack, the giant slayer, found the golden goose, his woman, and his singing harp or whatever, by climbing up into the dreamlike state of the beanstalk. And I was watching an interesting documentary. It was talking about how the beanstalk is actually the spine. And if you follow the chakra to the top of the beanstalk, this is where the infinite intelligence is. So the story is actually about climbing that energy that goes up your spine and down to the heel, which is the earth, where the beanstalk starts. So interesting. I mean, it could just be people being like, hey, look, something that goes straight up and down like a spine, and but it does kind of line up with the story. So a nice quote here: remember, meditation will bring you more and more intelligence, infinite intelligence, and radiant intelligence. Meditation will make you more alive and sensitive. Your life will become richer. Ranjish, I don't know.
I don't know who that is.
I don't need a priest between me and God. Unknown. Another quote. Yeah, recording on. So I agree with the above statement. You cannot connect to God, the infinite intelligence. You can connect to God, the infinite intelligence, at any time. You don't need a priest, but I still encourage using the technology of organized religion to help you navigate the spiritual realm, to learn faster and become stronger spiritually in a faster way. That's one thing I would say. People are typically put off by church when they're investigating spirituality. If you don't like that church, find another church. There are so many churches. If you're in the North End, there's a church every like 4 blocks. But so many people will go to a church, believe all churches are like that, back off and not participate. And it's not that God is found in a church, but certainly that's like a mastermind. On Sunday, they open up the book. We just happen to do it on Wednesday at 7. They're doing it at Sunday at 10, or if you're
Yeah.
7-day Adventist,
On Saturday
at 10. There's Friday services. There's also all during the week. There's all sorts of different
No,
services.
but even then, even if you don't like the institution, you can still have religion without the institutions, right? And just because some, priest raped some kid somewhere, and that's making like, the whole like religion look bad, doesn't mean you have to be part of that church. Doesn't mean you have to give up that faith either.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that happen on churches, but I think that's one of the biggest things with religion, is that we, especially the people in the institution, we hold them to a particular standard. And then when they turn out to be just, the same as the average person, or even worse, it almost cascades into the religion itself. You're like, okay, well, if the priests and the pastors are like this, then what does that mean about the religion itself? And so we can't take the institution of church and say that that's spirituality, because there was a survey, and they surveyed 200 churches across North America to say to the pastors, they said, well, how do you know your church is doing well? And so they rated, and I'm going to probably screw these up, but they rated the things that were important to them were number of people who attend, how much money they collected, the square footage of their building, how many programs they were running, and it was some other one, but none of them were about, they asked them about the health of the church, and all of them were focused on the growth and the size of their church. So I guess in some form, it's like, if you've got a lot of people in the church, maybe it's a good church, but that doesn't tell you anything about the health of the members of that church. You look at these mega churches in town, and I've been to smaller churches, I've been to the mega church, and when you go to the big churches, you're almost anonymous. Like, you can just slip in and slip out. No one will ever say anything to you. You may never even be seen. But you go to the small church, and that community is a lot tighter. So if you're new to religion, you want to be, you want to test it out, and you're not sure if you want to be engaged with, maybe go to a mega church. You can slide in and slide out, and no one will say anything to you. If you want a more intimate connection with your religion that you're practicing or investigating
within your community,
find a smaller one within your community and go to that one. Let's see here. We're pretty much at the end of the chapter. How can men find God? Page 378. You will find God by taking away the distractions in your life, by stripping away your addictions, getting rid of porn, getting rid of video games, and focusing on what your purpose is. Focusing on a vice and giving, focusing on service and giving, and becoming a man of production and value rather than a man of consumption.
Well, sounds like Carpenter Johnny.
Well, there was this other quote. It said, when you're receiving or expecting things, you're actually in your feminine energy. When you're producing and you're giving things, you're in your masculine energy. So one thing that I've been kind of struggling with is I have this tendency, I don't know, probably it's like my parents not paying attention to me. Anytime I do something, I'll go and be like, hey, look what I did. 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 Pat me on the back. But that's receiving. That's that feminine energy. So now every time that comes into my head, I'm like, no, I'm just going to do the things. And if people want to say thank you, they can. That's awesome. But I got my reward by the thing, not the satisfaction of someone, telling me how good I am and patting me on the back. So right at the end of the chapter here, and then we're going to go into some questions. It says, you can only communicate with God when your mind is clear, through prayer, meditation, a dreamlike state from waking up or going to bed, There is an infinite intelligence in the spiritual realm for you to make you whole and make you a complete man. You just simply need to access it. The first step is to cut out distractions, the parasites, the time wasters, and the wastes of your vital life energy, your sins. This will leave you free to connect and see what you truly need to see. Oh, I always love these Marcus Aurelius quote. Live a good life. If there are gods and they are just, then they will not care how devout you have been, but will welcome you based on the virtues you have lived by. If there are gods but unjust, then you should not want to worship them. If there are no gods, then you will be gone, but will have lived a noble life that will live on in the memories of your loved ones. Yeah. There's a religion right there. Let's just study his book next. No,
Well, he was a Stoic, right? And man, like what happened with that?
Stoicism? Well, they have Neo-Stoicism now. It's like a reimagining of Stoicism. So yeah, let's open it up to the floor. One of the things that I guess a question goes, is anyone actually an atheist in this group? I think at some point in the past I was. You know, I had a bumpy run-in with a bad church and a bad girl.
I wouldn't say.
Yeah, go ahead.
I wouldn't say I'm quite atheist, like there is no God. However, first time here we got a female actually in here. My wife Kitty is here and she is a complete atheist. So I brought her on for a little perspective. I would classify myself as more agnostic, where I'm like, I'm not sure if there's a God. There might be, but I wouldn't like praise any God personally myself until I seen some kind of like person walking on water or like Red Sea parting or some kind of direct evidence like that. But I'm not going to say there is no God because I just don't know. Maybe there is and I'm completely wrong.
Well, it's interesting in the Bible, it says you will see no sign. There will be no thing.
Yeah.
Really? It says that?
Yeah, it says that. It says there will be, in your time, there will be no sign of me.
What is it in Hebrew? We talk about the revelation of God's presence, and that it means that that's what we're here for, to witness it in the small things in our day-to-day life. Right? If you're somebody who's just not looking for it, you're not going to see the significance in like little things. But if you are somebody who's like all about the spirituality and spotting these little things and how, like I said before, if there is no God, how can you explain that this reality, that this earth and all its systems, ecological, biological, climate, that everything works so perfectly together, the physics, right? Like the physics engines of this world.
Yeah, I think Patrick was writing something in the chat here. I was in grade 10 until I took shrooms for the first time. So what's this? I haven't been going with the
No, because we're talking about in Islam how it's a true religion. So he said if you go to Islamic country and do bullshit, you're gonna find out, because Islam's a true religion. They actually like stand by what they believe.
Saying he was an atheist until in grade 10 he took some shrooms and then he found God. That's what I think he's saying.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was raised Catholic though, right? So like family went to church every Sunday, and then we ran into, I think, what did we read? The Stranger by Albert Camus. He's like existentialist, atheist philosopher in like grade 10. And that was like the first time anyone really gave out like info or even been exposed to being able to ask the question like, oh, like it's possible that there's no God. It's possible that you can be just responsible for your own life. And then that was kind of eye-opening. And then I took philosophy in university and eventually just kind of went back to, I'd say I'm more Christian than I am Catholic, if anything. But I do read like other spiritual texts, whether it's like the Tao in the Eastern philosophy, or even like Jewish texts, or like, yeah. I've read the Quran once. Probably not enough to get any like deep understanding of it.
Well, I think it's interesting too, is that I've read most of the major texts and they all line up in certain ways. It's always like the same things kind of lining up. There's some like technology differences, like Islam is rather radical. And it says in the book here actually that that religion is like 500 years behind Christianity.
Probably more.
Like 500 years, not as old.
Like newer?
Yeah, like that it's newer. Let me find
No,
the
no, no,
section.
no, no, that's actually okay. Like historically speaking, because us Jews, we call the Muslims our cousins because the Muslims are a descendant of Ishmael, which was, I believe it was one of, I think it was Abraham. No, was it Abraham or was it his son? I think Isaac's. And anyways, long story short, Ishmael, who's the like the lineage that the Muslims come from, he's a direct descendant from one of the three Hebrew fathers, one of the main patriarchs.
It doesn't say anything about, I'm misquoting here. It's just talking about how there are other religions in other countries here that were formed later and their philosophies are based on like
He's
things that are
saying their
500
software is
years.
like less advanced because it's
Yeah.
more like a little bit more primal.
Oh, and he's actually saying here, the Middle Ages were a hard and violent time, but that's why people from the Islamic countries want to move to the West. But the people from the West don't want to move to Islamic countries. I think there's a lot of reasons for that. My first thought is like, it's easy to be in the West because it's not as hard. Why would you want to move somewhere where it's harder? And
Well, I mean, Dubai seems like a great place to live, but Dubai has debtor prisons, right? We were talking about it yesterday. And so in a lot of these like Muslim countries, why do they not have bullshit? Because if you start owing people money, they're just going to throw you in jail for being a deadbeat. And that's a difference between the free West and these very tightly run Islamic countries. Because in the West, you can be a con artist and you can go borrow money from all these people and just get away with it.
go bankrupt a
And-
million
yeah.
times.
But
How many
oh,
times
yeah.
can you go bankrupt?
Well, I think it takes like 7 years or 8 years to get discharged.
So every 10 years for 70 years.
Yeah, and I know people like that they've had like a 30-year business career, and every 10 years they just like borrow all this money and go bust. And
5 or 7 times in your
Yeah.
lifetime. So one thing that's interesting about this chapter was meditation. I don't want to throw the question out there is prayer can be a kind of meditation. Does anyone actually follow any sort of like has done any sort of guided meditation? Because I've done guided meditation and I've used different apps to meditate. And there's some really profound physiological things that happen when you meditate for even just 10 or 15 minutes. Because I can remember there's one time, like I'm always, having a drink or smoking this or smoking that. But, stone sober, sitting there meditating with the app, 10 or 15 minutes in. And I remember like feeling high, like getting high meditating. And it's not like this happened all the time, but has anyone had, I guess to the room, any meditators in the room, people who practice meditation? Probably Patrick. I think I saw some posts of him practicing meditation or talking about it.
Yeah,
But I
try to
used
do
to do
minimum.
yeah, go ahead.
I try to do like minimum 5 minutes a day. I used to try to go longer, but yeah, the longest I've done is like 45. And then I was tripping balls at the end. I was like, oh, this is crazier than weed.
Yeah, like if you really like focus inside your mind, you're almost like detaching from your body in meditation. There's something definitely strange that happens when you meditate. And that kind of gets back to prayer and that infinite intelligence that you see. Because typically we meditate on things. Or let me meditate on that. And like throw it up to the universe and allow the universe to kind of spin it around. And maybe you find answers. One thing that's really interesting, and I suggest everyone try this. There's this section where I think it was Albert Einstein or a guy like that. He would fall asleep with a key in his hand over a plate. And in the moment in which he would fall asleep, the key would drop from his hand and it would wake him up. And so I started to almost meditate between sleeping and being conscious. So it was allowing my subconscious to come up in these really weird, really creative moments where I could almost fall asleep and pull myself out of it. And I would have all these ideas and I'd be connected to this creative energy. So if you're interested in meditation, applications like Headspace, that's one that I really recommend. It's like a guided thing. It's got music and it, talks to you. So it's like a guided meditation. I think meditation is hard if you're not being guided, especially early on. You can get good at it as you get more practiced, but guided meditation, that kind of subconscious universe thing where you almost fall asleep and then wake yourself up. I don't know that I've ever had anything profound while I'm praying. Maybe I'm praying wrong. I don't know. Is there a wrong way to pray? Let's put it to the room. Maybe you're supposed to treat it more like meditation instead of like a wish list of things you want.
I don't know. I don't pray and I don't meditate, but I believe in positive affirmations, right? Like one day I woke up and I said, I'm going to move to Winnipeg. And I did. And then one day I said, I was going to do real estate. And I did. And then long story short, it's good to, have integrity and follow through, but you have to put it out there before you can actually do it.
Yeah. And then one thing I see Sam writing here, I pray when I'm at the casino or doing a scratch ticket.
The casino's like a church, eh?
Yeah.
More
the
praying
church.
happens in the casino than in the church.
Yeah. Like, come on, God, just help me out.
Oh,
here.
bless me here.
But what's interesting, and I've been researching, with all the talking about spirituality and stuff, my phone's picking up on it and it's in my reel feed now. So this pastor comes on and he says, when you pray for something, God gives you the challenge for you to learn that. If you want wisdom, he'll put foolish people in your way. If you pray for patience, he will give you people to be patient with. If you pray for money, he will teach you how to save money. So be careful what you pray for, because you might just get it, in the sense that you might get an exercise on how to learn how to manage it. Because I don't think the universe or the infinite intelligence gives us anything directly. Like people with a secret and they're manifesting things and they're saying, "Oh, I'm going to be rich." Well, let's say that you're meditating and you're praying, you're saying, "God, just let me be affluent."
But then you don't do any work.
Well, he's going to give you work.
Yeah, but then if you don't do it, and that's a problem with The Secret. See, it was a good documentary, but the problem with it is that just having affirmations and not acting on it is going to get you nowhere. Right?
Well, it's like the universe will present opportunities for you to learn the lesson. If you want, oh, I wish I had a fancy car. Well, God will probably teach you how to appreciate your current car before he gives you the opportunity to have the fancy car. Because if you can't manage your piece of junk, why would a fancy new car make you happy?
So you say, "Please God, I want a fancy car." So then you get a car loan, right? And now you're getting milked financially. Like, "Please God, get me some more money. It's like, okay, I'm gonna sell the car now.
Well, it's like it'll present a business opportunity, and opportunities typically look like overalls and hard work. So, I wouldn't say be careful what you pray for, but learn to recognize that you're getting what you're praying for from the infinite intelligence, or whatever you want to call it, whatever book you're subscribed to. As long as it's something and not nothing, the universe, God, will provide an opportunity for you to get what you asked for. But never is it just like, God, please give me $1 million. And then your door's like knocking on your door, and some guy's like, here's a check from Publishers Clearinghouse for $1 million. Like, it just doesn't work like that. So let's take a look here. We got, we're really crunching through this book, eh? Chapter 27. Let's see where we're at. Does anybody else have anything they want to say on this chapter before we wrap this up and start talking about the next part of the book?
I just wanted to put out a little statement that I think that everybody is an atheist in one way or another. I'm just one God down. So, like, for instance, y'all probably don't believe in the hundreds of different gods the Hindus believe in. Y'all probably don't believe in like Allah from Islam. There's so many thousands and thousands.
Yeah, I think
of
Kevin
gods out
O'Leary
there.
said that, right? Kevin O'Leary said, it's Ricky Gervais.
Yeah.
He said, I just believe in one less than you. But zero is a lot different than one.
Well, I'm Jewish, so by like default, I can't believe in these thousands of gods and like all
Right.
stuff, because that actually goes back, 6,000 years on the core values of what the religion was founded on.
So as an atheist then, Kitty, tell me, who do you pray to?
I pray to myself.
So you're God.
Well, I mean, I guess we're all gods, technically, if you wanna
But not if
go
you're an
in that
atheist and you don't believe in God, so then you probably shouldn't pray then.
Oh yeah, like I don't pray, but when we're talking about meditation, I definitely self-reflect, which I think is what meditation is.
Yeah,
But yeah, I don't pray.
I've definitely been there. I've definitely been on the atheist train for periods of my life. I guess the question is, what's the harm in believing in one?
Because it's which one, and then according to which
Anyone.
God you're believing in,
Anyone.
you could be believing in morality that is wrong and dangerous.
Kitty, give us a little bit of context here, like with your background, because I know you personally, so I totally understand where you're coming from and why you feel the way you do.
Yeah. I grew up Mennonite Christian. I was unfortunately excommunicated because I started having a lot of doubts. I went to university for religious studies major to become a missionary. And through that research and all the courses I was taking, I started thinking for myself rather than listening to church services. And instead of hearing what people said was in the Bible, I started reading the Bible for myself. And that's when I could no longer believe in what I was reading. I couldn't believe that pastors took out verses and whatnot.
Yeah, and cherry picked what they wanted and then had their own bullshit interpretation.
Yeah,
Exactly.
discrepancy.
And from there, I was still trying to hang on as much as I could to any kind of religion, because I definitely wanted to believe that there was something more than this world. But I tried Islam, even wore a hijab at one point, went to the temple for like Hinduism. And I explored so many different religions because I was still a religious studies major. So I had the ability to listen to all kinds of different belief systems. And at the end, I came to the conclusion that unfortunately, I did not believe in any of man-made religions. And so as of right now, I would consider myself an agnostic atheist, in the sense that I don't believe in any gods that people state, but I'm still very much open.
Do you believe in stuff like The Secret and manifesting things with thought and vibration. Are you on that?
I think that like manifestation, I mean, I would definitely believe that to a certain degree. I think that obviously you need to set goals and aspirations for yourself if you want to keep bettering yourself. And the only way to achieve goals is to self-reflect and continue to put in the hard work.
One thing that, and I totally get that. And one thing that it seems to be that really hooks people into religion is the belief that their family members who have passed will exist in some other realm and you can see them again. Like, how many religions talk about that? The afterlife, you know, whatever it may be. So in atheism, you're just dead. You just put you in the ground, or
Yeah, I mean, we
you
don't
go out of the
remember
cannon
what
or
we
whatever.
were when we were fetuses in the womb. You know, I obviously have no recollection of before I was born. And I think the same will be true for when we pass away. There's no evidence of an afterlife, like scientifically, that we can go to as of right now. And so, yeah, I believe that if we don't remember what we were before, we're not going to remember what we are after, because consciousness is with the brain. And if the brain is dead, you no longer have consciousness.
What I think is, depending on how good of a person you are, you might be born into another baby, or maybe you're born into a sperm whale. Or if you're Ryan James Knight, you're born into like a cockroach and you get stepped on by the local
Like you go
carpenter.
down, it goes down a notch.
No, you know what I believe, because I do believe in reincarnation, but I do believe that if you are dying born again here on this world, you fucked up.
Well, there was actually, there's older teachings that exist than most of like our scriptures, talking about vaguely about a cycle in which our planet goes something like 13 or 15,000 years, and we're stuck here on repeat until we can climb the chakras, get to conscientiousness,
Get to Christ level consciousness, and then, like I said,
escape this reality, and that this reality is hell.
yeah, and actually, if you read the Bible, you know, if you actually like, and you can, and this is why the Bible is important, because whether you believe in it or not, the Bible is still a collection of like the last, 5,000 to 6,000 years of human history. And we can't just throw all the lessons that are in there. But if you actually read the Bible, especially in the New Testament, where it talks about the gospel, was it the story of like Jesus Christ, and Jesus is fasting in the desert for 40 days and 40 nights. And the devil comes to him and he says, I will make you the king of all kings. I will make you the ruler of this earth. All you have to do is kneel to me. And they're at the top of a mountain, and the devil's trying to show him all the civilizations that are on the planet. So here's the question. If this is God's world, why is the devil able to enter into a contract? Why is he able to offer a contract to Jesus if he doesn't actually own this realm? Right? Like, think
as well
about
as
it.
like artists sell your soul
Yeah.
for rock and roll.
You see, because you see, if this isn't the devil's world, how are we able to enter into a contract with him?
And any ascension is talking about up and away and not staying here. Like, this is not heaven, but nobody said that this isn't hell.
Well, if in Jewish like philosophy, we talk a lot about the Garden of Eden. And so when Adam, and Eve get evicted from the garden, and they're barricaded out, and there's two angels with spinning flaming swords that are guarding the gate. If you're going to go through, you're going to get sliced up. And so now Adam has to leave this, fertile, warm, tempered environment, which has all these fruit-bearing trees. And now he has to go to the mortal realm and work the fields, work in the cold rain, and toil in the soil to actually have an existence. And Adam spends the rest of his mortal life trying to go back to the Garden of Paradise. And so a Jew's job, but it doesn't just even apply to Jews, is to find paradise wherever we're going to be, because the Messiah is never going to come, or the rapture is never going to come in our lifetime. And that's what the revelation of God's presence is. That's why we're here. We're here to wait it out and try to see it in the small moments while we're here.
That's deep. All right, we're at 8:08. Unfortunately, we're out of time for Marcin's segment this week, so we're gonna have to push him to next week. Sorry about that, Marcin. We're into part 4. Politics, a system of organized hate and systematic extinction of the West. Okay. Politics is a practice, whatever its profession, has always been the systematic organization of hatreds. Henry Adams. So we're going into chapter 27. Some crazy art as always. I love the art in this book. It'd be cool if someone took just the art, made a book and like colored it.
You know, little fun fact, just no, show the thing. Okay, little fun fact, Stefan was into tentacle porn. Just so you know, little fun fact from Carpenter
fact.
Johnny and Friends.
And we've got, what is this? Some sort of like octopus. Yeah. Wrapping around.
Wrapping around, dude. Oh, yeah, look, he's like sucking it. Yeah.
Well, no, it's going around his head, but it's
yeah, but no,
pretty
it looks like he's sucking it.
It's
Yeah.
pretty suspect. So it says chapter 27. In the land of the blind, men can no longer see their enemies. In the land of the blind, the one-eyed man is king. In the darkness, the man with the candle is an easy target. Michael Grant. So this chapter is, let's see.
It's
not
actually a
too
short
bad.
chapter.
Oh, shit. We got some more interesting art. So yeah, short chapter, chapter 27. We're moving on. We're done with religion. We're done with work. We're done with women. Now we're talking about politics. And I think the last section is, it's going to be, where is it? I guess there is no last section. We just kind of transitions here. Barbarians at the gates. So we got a section here on religion or on politics. And yeah, when we get to the end, like church, we're just going to wrap around and start again at the top. So what is this? Hard times permissions. Oh, the permissions of like of the quotes and stuff, all pending, of course. It's easier to ask for forgiveness than it is to ask.
But what's for
permission.
research purposes, right?
Yeah. Just always remember that, especially if you're doing business. It's easier to ask for forgiveness than it is to ask for permission. So until next time, guys, 7 o'clock Central Time until the end of time. This is the Hard Times Create Strong Men Mastermind. Same Hard Times time, same Hard Times channel. Do your pull-ups, do your push-ups. Let's see you on the next call.
Thanks, everyone. Peace.